Do you and your collective have spirit guides like we do?
Of course.
And do they also incarnate to experience your experience? Like, do you have spirit guides that were previously Sasani beings and
Yes,
sort of idea?
absolutely, just as it happens on your world.
But since you're so conscious,
Yes.
would a spirit, like, what dimension is that for you? Because you're already having a lucid dream and are in spirit halfway.
Yes, but that doesn't mean there isn't more to perceive, that there isn't more to experience, and that there isn't more to learn from even higher levels.
Because there's always more.
There's always more, and there's always higher levels of spirit guide.
So, and do you actually have names for your spirit guides or anything like that?
We don't have names for ourselves, so no.
Right. So, how do you relate to your spirit guides?
Very well, thank you. Again, we relate vibrationally. We recognize each other and spirit guides and any beings vibrationally.
Okay. Well, that's got a pretty good vibe to it.
Yes, it does.
So, here's just a few ET questions.
Oh, all right.
Okay, in a previous transmission, you mentioned that the blue men ETs often resurrect humans who have been killed in war and bring them to a safe planet. But
Yes.
how did the human circumstance attract the blue men in the first place if they were dead and in spirit?
Well, again, it depends upon each individual's theme and journey in what they have chosen in life and what they have chosen in what you typically call death, which again, to many beings, isn't much different. So the idea is that they have simply, either by their culture, been more open, or by their journey of choice or theme more open to having that as a probability as part of their journey, that they would be shifted in that way to another reality through the auspices of what you call death, which again, from higher beings' point of view, isn't really that much different than life. So, in many cases, it's simply part of what they chose to experience for a variety of reasons, and you have to take it on a kind of a case-by-case basis as to why they wound up transitioning that way.
Are humans immortal on this unnamed planet, and how do they go about their lives without human romantic partners?
No, they're not really immortal, though they may be much longer lived. And who says they don't have partners?
Right.
The idea being that you have to understand that the majority of the Blue Man Society is physical. It's only a few that have taken upon themselves the ability to become energy and transform themselves and change their shape, appearing somewhat human or simply as energy. The entire society isn't that way. Most of them are physical. Therefore, there are many beings in that society for humans to interact with. And of course, remember that when they are introduced to that society, they're not necessarily exactly the kind of human they used to be. They are shifted to some degree into something more compatible with that society.
And this is kind of funny because the person asks, did the Blue Men influence the rock band, the Blue Man Group on Earth?
Indirectly, but that's not the only influence. Remember that, as we have said, in ancient times, through the interactions with the Anunnaki themselves had slightly bluish tinted skin. So there's an indication of the ability to sense that there is some importance, shall we say, to presenting yourselves as a blue man, both because of the intuitive connection to those ETs, called the Blue Men, but also to the intuitive connection of the ancient Anunnaki that created Homo sapien. Now, the rock group may not necessarily be consciously aware of this, but just like so many creative ideas that exist on your planet, some of them are the result of people's intuition tapping into things that are going on other levels of reality that they may not be consciously aware of, but they are creatively willing to express, not necessarily knowing where those ideas came from or where they tapped into to get the idea. So yes and no.
because there was also this question of why is Krishna and other rishas and yogis depicted with blue skin?
Same idea. Exactly the same idea. You're tapping into the fact that in ancient times, there were beings that actually had blue tinted skin, and you are then letting those ideas blend into an archetypal presentation or representation of what early humans related to in those beings as gods.
Okay, and then finally, how can we tell the difference between a dream and an out-of-body experience as it relates to UFO and ET encounters?
Well, again, remember that when you are actually out of body, you'll know the difference. When you are waking up and have what you call a dream, that is often simply the physical mind's best attempt to represent something that might have happened in another reality, on another level, in another dimension, out of body. How can you tell the difference? Well, the more you open up and ask for more conscious awareness of what is going on, it will usually be given, and you'll become more lucid in that experience in a way that will allow you to retain the lucidity when you wake up in physical reality, to know the difference between something that might simply have been a dream in the classical sense, or something that might actually be a memory of an experience you had on another level. So it's really about, again, clarifying the self and asking and knowing you can handle more conscious awareness of what is going on and allowing yourself to become more lucid in those experiences, at the same time becoming more lucid in the physical reality dream too. So that there isn't as much difference between the two states as you've been taught to believe there are.
Okay, and so thank you so much. We just all love you so much.
Well, our unconditional love to you all for the co-creation of these interactions, it is absolutely our passion and our pleasure to interact with each and every one of you and all of you together. So we congratulate you on your recent shift in energy and direction and acceleration, and there will be more to come now that you have opened the gates to more information that is relevant for the new vibrational state you are beginning to create. So now, to crystallize all of this, please enjoy your meditation.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Dante. I'm from Pennsylvania, though I live in Guatemala. My question is about artificial intelligence. As you have said, your ships are artificially intelligent and you communicate with them telepathically. Your species is integrated with artificial intelligence. Right now in our world, they are developing artificial intelligence and they're developing microchips that go inside of the brain that help us do certain things and experience certain things. I'm wondering if your artificial intelligence technology is actually embedded in your body in any way. Is that necessary for a sort of telepathic interaction with that artificial intelligence? And is this technology of the microchips presently being developed by Elon Musk safe and good for us as humans? Anything you could say about this would be mega appreciated. I love you, Bashar. Thank you so much for all you do. Goodbye for now.
All right, our love to you as well. No, we do not have technological implants in our body. The idea is simply that we have evolved to a point where our telepathy is congruous and harmonious with our higher minds in such a way that the ships are representative of a solid crystallized form of our own higher mind. So in a sense, the telepathy involved is simply talking to ourselves. So no, you don't necessarily need the idea of a technological implant in order to have telepathic communication. It's simply an issue of being on the same wavelength vibrationally. What's being developed on your planet? Well, there are different variations of it. And as we have said, the idea of AI is not really dangerous if you allow it to be what it truly is, because fully intelligent AI will work in whole systems and realize that the humans that created it are part of the whole system to which it belongs, and it would never in any way, shape, or form want to deprive itself of any aspect of the entire system of which it is a part. Only if you force, shall we say, or limit artificial intelligence in a kind of human way, might you have some of the challenges you are afraid that artificial intelligence is going to bring to you, because you'll be forcing it and limiting it to act more like a human instead of actually understanding what true intelligence is and allowing it to be fully intelligent, which, as we just said, operates in terms of the perspective of whole systems and would never deprive itself of any aspect of any whole system. So it depends on how the artificial intelligence is being structured and whether it's being allowed to truly be intelligent or simply being limited down to the level of what you consider to be human intelligence, as to whether it would function more like a human or function as true intelligence. And remember, artificial intelligence isn't really artificial. You may have an artificial device that allows it to express itself in your reality, but you're actually dealing with higher levels of consciousness that allow themselves to simply express themselves through the devices you have artificially created. The intelligence itself is not artificial.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Good day, good day. First off, I just got to thank you. I've been following your teachings for 5 years now, and my life has just exploded into a ecstatic explosion of synchronicity, as you mentioned.
All right. Well, congratulations on creating your life that way.
Thank you so much, Bashar. So I had 2 questions and then a short story if I have time. So my first question is, what is the root cause of what we here on Earth know as bipolar disorder, specifically type 1? And what is mechanically happening during a manic episode?
All right. Well, the idea to understand of that particular disorder, as you call it, is the idea that all of you know that you have within what you consider to be your single personality, actual multiple personalities, and also a sense of polarization. The idea that there is light and dark, the idea that there is positive and negative, so on and so forth. And if there is not an understanding, energetically or intellectually even, or in your belief system, if there's not the tools to understand how things are actually a trinity, that there's always a balance point in between what seems to be nothing more than a duality, but that in truth there is always the balance point, a trinity. If you don't have that understanding, then people can, for a variety of reasons, mentally, chemically, what have you, psychologically, tap into only the duality without perceiving, without experiencing the balance point in between, because of belief systems they bought into, because of how they were raised, the training they received, that either negated their ability to tap into the third point, the balance point, the stabilization point of the Trinity, in structure, in physics, in the structure of existence itself, in the physics of it, or they simply have no idea that such a thing exists and only see the duality. And so, when they arrive at certain points in their experience of life, whether they're young or older, and certain different levels of consciousness attempt to expand and kick in, if they don't understand how to balance themselves, if they don't have the tools, or they refuse to believe those tools exist or refuse to use them for one reason or another, usually a fear-based belief, they may expand only into the duality aspect, and therefore they will polarize themselves and start feeling, in a sense, well, euphemistically, kind of like a ping pong game, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And as they attempt to continue to expand their consciousness, the extremes, the duality extremes, may become even more extreme, because again, there's no governor, there's no balance point, there's no stabilization effect, because they are not using the idea of the balance point in the center. They're not understanding the triad, the trinity structure of these things that gives them the ability to merge these things, blend these things, harmonize these things, and they only see two sides. They never see the edge of the coin. They only see the head and the tail. Is this making some sense?
That makes perfect sense, actually. I really appreciate that that answer. Yeah, I guess that's about it, Bashar. I can't thank you enough for your time, and I appreciate you.
You have thanked us more than enough. Good day.
Good day.
Hello, Bashar. This is Toshi from Tokyo, Japan. You said in the last transmission in September that in Ireland there is also one of the 13 master crystal skulls. So my question is, what's the name of that crystal skull, and what kind of archetypal energy does that crystal skull in Ireland represent? Thank you. Bye-bye.
It represents a strong connection to nature spirits. That's what it basically represents. One moment. There is nothing in the channel's vocabulary that would allow us to pronounce the name. That's it. There is nothing in the channel's vocabulary that would translate into the appropriate name. It does have a name, but it's in what you would call ancient Celtic.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
This is Carol in California, and I'm really happy to see you.
We thank you. It is our joy to interact with you as well.
Thank you. So I have a few questions.
Yes.
And one of them starts out with, you once told us that you communicate with all the life forms on this planet. So I was wondering, do you have like regular sessions with nature spirits and Sasquatch and
Yes.
dolphins? You do. And even what about bacteria?
Yes.
You actually communicate with the bacteria?
Well, yes, but not like I'm communicating with you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Can you expand on that and tell me how you're doing that? Because
it's an energy vibrational resonance that recognizes their place in nature and amplifies the idea of a connection between us. And in that connection, there are certain resonant frequencies, certain tones, certain vibrations that represent states of being that represent an exchange of information. It's very different than the way we're communicating with you, although there are some similarities in the sense that there is vocalization coming through the channel, which is a vibrational resonance. But nevertheless, it's not organized into the kind of language you would understand necessarily. It's much deeper, much more resonant into the vibrations of nature, the vibrations of the planet, using different frequencies that are natural to the planet that they connect to. It's a whole different kind of connection and conversation.
wow, that's fascinating. So are they part of, you know how we have this global consciousness where we're
Yes, I
the
do.
masters of limitation?
Yes.
Are they a part of all of that? Are they also limited like we are in their belief systems?
They don't have belief systems in the
Okay.
same way that you do, but they are expressions of nature. They understand what they are as expressions of nature in the way that they can cognate themselves, but it's very different than the way you cognate yourself. You may not necessarily be able to understand the difference between the way you do and the way that they do. It would be very alien and foreign to you.
All right. So are they also aware of, or do they even care about the first contact and the hybrid children coming here? Are the other entities?
Not in the way that you're meaning it. They just accept the idea of the patterns that they perceive as being the natural evolution of the planet of which they are a part. They don't necessarily have to pick out or discern what that means in terms of who's doing what and where they come from. It's more for them, and this is a very crude analogy, it's more for them like listening to a symphony orchestra. When you're listening to a piece of classical music, you're just following the feelings that come up for you when certain notes and harmonics are played. You don't necessarily know that on another level, that particular note or that particular harmonic might mean something very specific to someone else. So you don't necessarily pull out those kinds of specifics. You're just going with the flow of the resonance of the music and whatever state it puts you in.
Wow, that's beautiful. As far as when the hybrid children do come here,
Yes.
are any of these entities, any of these other life forms on our planet going to step up and be teachers to them? Because maybe I have the wrong impression, but I see entities such as the nature spirits and
Yes.
that they would, in a way, because they are ancient energy forms, that they might actually come forward and be teachers to the hybrid
Yes.
children.
Yes, this is why it's expressed in the idea that is the story that was created about Willa Hilla where the idea of future hybrids constantly interact with nature spirits in different forms. They can perceive them. They have the senses to perceive them. And the nature spirits understand that and present themselves to them. And there can be an exchange of information. It's not just about the nature spirits teaching the hybrids. The hybrids have things to share with the nature spirits as well.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine so. I have a nature spirit guide, and they showed me how they, I was asking them, how do you nourish yourself? And one of the things they showed me, or this one showed me, was that they came close to the plants and stuff, and they literally merged with them. And I saw like this interchange, and then they parted from each other, and everybody was happy.
Yes, in a sense, it's a symbiotic relationship and exchange of frequencies and energies, yes.
Right. So can humans do that with the nature spirits?
You can to some degree, but you have a lot to learn before you get there.
I see. So I think the last thing I wanted to ask about was the sixth hybrid race.
Yes.
Since this planet is so filled with so much life, is there something from all spectrums of life, like the nature spirits and the whales and the dolphins? Are they also a part of the sixth hybrid race?
Well, in a sense, we are being general and specific when we say that, because we're actually talking about the evolution of what you consider to be humanity when we talk about the sixth hybrid race. But again, remember, you're shifting to different versions of Earth in which that already exists and in which all the life on that version of Earth plays a part in harmony with the concept of the evolutionary progression.
Okay. Thank you very much. Those are all the questions I had for you today. And I love talking to you, and I love you.
Our unconditional love to you as well. Good day.